When I was 11 years old, I thought I would do just about anything to impress my bunkmates at Camp Hazen, right? Camp Hazen was this sleepaway camp I had gone to, my whole life. I love this place. And I was really psyched that summer when I was 11 because I get to camp and I find out I'm going to be in the older boys' bunk, right? It's on the top of the hill. And I remember the first night that I'm in the bunk, this counselor, Hugh, he's up and he's kind of leading this powwow. He's this huge British guy. He's cursing like a sailor, and all the other kids in the bunk, right? They're talking about their basketball trophies and their, exploits at the skate park and kissing girls and all this stuff. And I was really excited. I was like, these kids are great. But at the same time, I was pretty nervous. I recognized I was more of like a read Harry Potter, stay in, play some video games type kid. And I was very concerned that, I was going to be kind of found out for that. But I'm like, all right, I'm going to make it work. And, camp's going on and we're kind of getting in the flow of things. And I find out that our counselor, Hugh, he's putting together this epic prank, right? And I'm like, this is my moment. So I managed to be there when it's getting all planned out. And, the anticipation's building day after day. And finally the morning comes. And there's this cohort of us. We all slip out of bed at 5 a.m. silent, right? And we meet Hugh out in the woods. And Hugh's got all this black face paint. We're putting it on like war paint, right? And he's got all this pirate gear. We're throwing it on. And we sneak through camp like this gang of marauders until we get to the dining hall. It's this huge dining hall. And we pull out all the tables, pull out all the chairs, and we build this massive fortress out in front of the dining hall, right? And then we go back in and we fill up hundreds of water balloons. And so we've got our fortress, we've got our ammunitions, and we man our posts, and we wait. And so after a little while, this car pulls up to the dining hall, and out steps Chef Joe. And Chef Joe's kind of this celebrity at camp, right? He'd always come out and do these bits, and everyone loved him at camp, but he was not happy Chef Joe that morning. And he just walks right up to Hugh, and he looks right at me and says, this might be fun for you, but it's me and my staff who are going to clean up your mess. And with that, he turns to you and he storms off, and he was just livid. And it clicked for me in that moment in my 11-year-old brain, like, oh yeah, hundreds of people are about to come down to eat, and they're not really going to be able to do breakfast, and obviously we're going to be busted, and there's probably going to be some real consequences for this. And I'm standing there, and as this adrenaline's fading, and I'm feeling that black face paint kind of dry and cake on my face, and that pirate hat's a little too big, it's sliding down. I'm like, this isn't me. I got to get out of here, right? And so I go to Hugh, and I'm like, I got to leave. And he's like, all right. And he kind of opens up this gap in the fort for me, and I walk out, and as I'm walking out, there's this confusion behind me. Kids don't really understand, but when they see that I'm leaving, they actually start to boo me. And so I took off running. And I'll never forget that moment of just running through those empty fields of Camp Hazen as the kids who I so desperately was trying to impress just jeered me. And I didn't stop running until I reached my cabin, and I washed off that face paint, and I crawled back into bed. And a little while later, the bells for breakfast go off, right? And I kind of file in with everyone else who's going down. And sure enough, there they are, Hugh, the counselors, roaring, and all the boys are whooping up a storm, and all the kids from camp are dodging the water balloons. And I just tried my best to be invisible that day. And for a really long time, I thought about this as a really painful memory about this time that I let fear and anxiety drive my decision-making and rob me of this fun experience. But more recently, I've been reflecting upon how much time and how much energy I spent as a kid trying to impress the people who I idolized. And how every time it turned out the same way. But it was just at Camp Hazen that it was the most obvious who was standing on the inside and where I was standing. And so instead, I'd like to think of this story as a lesson. That instead of spending my energy impressing the people I idolize, I need to spend it finding friends who are going to build me up. Because while the Hughes of the world are out there at 5 a.m. pulling their hijinks, saying, fuck the consequences, there's a lot of us who'd be perfectly fine getting 8 hours of sleep. You know? And we can be there for each other, and that's all right with me. Thank you very much.